G'day folks. So I haven't done any kind of time-lapse tutorials in a while, so I thought I'd do one today. Now in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to add reverse effects and speed up and slow down kind of time shifting effects in your time lapses. Now we're going to be using GoPro Studio. GoPro Studio is a really good program, and the best part is it's free and you can do all kinds of amazing things with it. And if you don't have it, I definitely recommend downloading it. You can do it from GoPro.com. It's bundled in with the quick desktop app. Now another thing I just want to mention quick before we get started, this will work with time lapses that have been shot in photo mode or video mode. And I'm going to be using a time lapse I did last summer in Niagara Falls, and it was shot on the Hero 4, but this technique will work on any version of Heroes that you've created your time lapses on. So the first thing we're going to do is import our file. Now I'm importing a video file that I've already created, and this is where you would load your photo sequence if you've shot in photo mode, or video if you've shot in video mode. So we're just going to open it up. So once we've loaded our time lapse, it'll be here on the left hand side, and we just want to check our settings here to make sure that we have it at the highest quality. This allows for more editing later on without losing quality, especially if you're going to be doing any kind of zooming in on the time lapse. So let's leave the time lapse at source, so that's going to be what it was shot at resolution wise. Frame rate we're going to have at source 29.97 frames per second, and quality on high. And yeah, so now we're just going to hit OK there. So now we're going to add the time-lapse sequence to our conversion list, and basically you'll see it pop up over here. And basically this is so GoPro Studio can convert it into a file that's easily editable. Is that a word, edible? Sounds like something you eat. So now we're just going to hit the convert all down at the right hand side at the bottom. Now this will take some time depending on your computer speed and the file size. It could take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes, upwards of 10 minutes. So I'll just fast forward through this part and I'll see you in step 2. And just if you're wondering, I shot this at the whirlpool on the Canadian side in Niagara Falls. So that's the whirlpool down there in the distance. And it was a really nice day. That's the cable car that goes from both Canadian points, but unfortunately it wasn't running that day. I was kind of hoping to get it zipping across there, but it wasn't running. Okay, so as you can see, it has now completed. So we can go over here at the top and click on step 2. So we're going to create a new blank template. When we do that, just double click on it. So now the newly converted file is over here on the left hand side. Now if you converted from photos, it's going to be in a 4:3 aspect ratio. If you did your time lapse on video mode, it's already going to be in a 16:9. If it's the 4:3 because you did it in photos, as soon as you drag it down to the timeline, and that's what we're going to do now, drag it down, it's going to automatically crop it to a 16:9, which is standard, you know, if you're going to be sharing it on YouTube or any kind of social media. So we've got our time lapse down in our timeline, and this is our workspace. Now what we're going to do is we're going to split this file into 3 parts, and why we're going to do that is for the first part of this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do some speed shifts. That can add a really nice dynamic look, and it just looks kind of cool. So what we're going to do is use some of the tools here, and we're going to split it, and that is this first little icon here. These two trim it, so if you were to move your scrub bar to here and click on this button, that would cut this front part out and delete it. So that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is split the clip into different parts. So what we're going to do is just move our scrub bar here until we want, or we find a place we'd like to clip it, and I'm going to do maybe just right about there. It's not an exact science, you know, just find a spot that you like, and we're going to hit this little button here. So as you can see now, we have 2 clips. And again, so for the next section we're going to split it again, and this is where it's going to go to a slower speed. So you don't want it too long, because we may even slow it down more than what it already is. So we're just going to play it from that section, and I think that's good. we'll just have a small little segment in there where it really slows down. So now we're going to split it again. So now we have three separate clips. It's all the same video, and if you move your scrub bar across, you can see that it's just seamless, same speed all the way through. Now this first clip, we're going to highlight it, and now we're going to speed this up. So if we go over here to the left hand side under video controls, I'll just close mine because that might be how yours is. We just click this little down arrow and that brings up our video controls. And the first thing we're going to do is the speed. By default it's at 100%. That's the speed that it is being played at. So let's speed that up to about 250%. So after you've changed the speed, you're going to notice that it says enable flux there. We want to take the check mark out of that because that'll add a lot of time to your render when we go to export it. And for this, what we're doing here doesn't really give us any benefit for that, so we're just going to take that out. So that's very important. So now we've sped up this first sequence to 250%, and we're going to do the same to the last part of it. So we're going to change that to 250. So we've sped up the last sequence to 250, and again we're going to take the enable flux. Now at this point we can just preview it and we'll see how it looks. So there it's playing fast, there it goes to a nice slow amount, and there it goes to fast again. So that kind of looks kind of cool like that. And what we can do is if we want to even slow this center clip down, we can. It's at 100%, the original, but we can slow it down to maybe 80%, and that will just slow it down a little bit more. So let's preview that now. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. And then goes back to the higher speed. So yeah, that is really nice. So now it's also nice when you add a reverse effect. So what we're going to do now is drag another copy of the file down to our timeline, and we're going to put it right at the end of the last sequence. Now theoretically, we can just reverse this, and we do so by clicking this little reverse button up at the top. And it should be seamless because it's going to end on a certain frame there, and it will then restart from that frame and go backwards. So let's watch that. We'll start it just from about here. And there it goes. Now if you want it to match, you can speed that up to the 250%. Again, take flux out. And there it goes. So yeah, that looks really nice. It's everything going in reverse now. And sometimes, you know, whether you're editing or not, just certain time lapses, when you're out filming them, you can't control the way the clouds are moving or anything like that. So it's kind of nice, just sometimes for an entire time lapse, you might want to reverse it because, you know, it looks better. Maybe the clouds going away from you over a lake, or maybe the clouds were going in that direction, but you think it's going to look better if the clouds are coming at you. You know, so the reversing is actually a really nice and important tool of editing. You know, you can play around with the white balance, image controls, up the exposure. But just keep in mind, each one of these clips is now separate. So if you adjust the exposure for your first sequence or the contrast, it's going to start to look funny because, you know, it's when it gets to where it's split here, it's going to jump back to the original. If you are going to play around with the exposure and contrast and saturation, you should do that before you split your clips. Drag your time lapse down to the timeline and then make any adjustments that you want, and then you can go ahead and split the clips. Now there's so many more things we can add here. I've got lots of tutorials on my channel, and I'll include a playlist in the description with all my time-lapse tutorials that are in one spot, because from here you can add different panning motions and zoom motions. You can play around with the color, fade to black and white, all different things. Be creative, have fun with it. Now the last step we have is, once we're happy with the way we have everything edited, we're going to click on the export button, and we're going to select the resolution that we'd like to export it as. I'm just going to do 1080 for now, and you can export it at 4K, you know, if your computer can handle that. So I've just chose HD 1080, and again, make sure flux is not enabled here. Take the check mark out because it will dramatically increase the amount of render time. You know, upwards of, I've seen it take an hour, so definitely take that check mark out. Now we're going to hit the export button. We'll name it Timelapse and just save it. It's going to be saved to your video folder on a PC if that's what you're using. So now we'll just wait for it to export,